When I was a kid, we lived in the country, and it wasn't like there weren't any other kids around to play with, but somehow or other, starting when I was about 5 years old, music became my companion. More than my companion, it was sort of like a ticket into another world. I could just like put on a record and take off. It really grounded me at a time where it was kind of tumultuous. My parents were, getting a divorce, and I went away to school when I was really young, and music was a powerful grounding force in my life. The emotional connection that I got to some of the records that I was listening to, it was almost the only place where I felt heard. Like if I could hear some lyrics that in some ways mirrored what I was experiencing, either about loneliness or about, being unlucky in love. If the words of a song connected to what I was experiencing, I felt like I was on the right track in a really profound way. I was incredibly lucky to have a relatively safe place to grow up in. I can only imagine what it's like for people for whom that's not a given. That food, shelter, security, loving family, if you take away any of those things, especially for teenagers, I can imagine it would be incredibly disruptive and terrifying. One of the interesting things about this neighborhood, E-Town Hall is an old church, and it was built originally in the 20s, right in the middle of downtown. This section of Boulder was kind of known as the church district. There were a lot of churches on Pine Street, Spruce Street. A block away from us is a pretty active church that created a partnership with an organization called Attention Homes. And they provide housing and other services, primarily for young, formerly homeless people. And I started thinking, well, E-Town is a recording studio, a performance hall. We're all about music. We're about writing songs and editing and creating media. And half a block away, there's 40 young people who are, in most cases, moving into the first apartment of their own that they've ever had in their lives. All of them had been at one point or another homeless on the streets. Can't imagine the stories they went through. My idea was, is there a way to connect the facilities of E-Town Hall and our community with these young people who are new neighbors of ours? Before this facility was built, there was some tension in the neighborhood among residents who were feeling like, well, I don't know if I want this 40 formerly homeless young people living right in my neighborhood, right downtown. Shouldn't they be off somewhere else? So another piece of this project was, I wanted to offer the music instruction and mentoring and songwriting help and recording, all that stuff for these young people. But I also wanted to show the neighborhood that, hey, we gave them a chance to make some creative things and they did it. That, I thought, would be like a bridge to diffusing the tension, actually welcome these kids into the neighborhood and broadening a sense of what the neighbors felt was okay. Play that high E for me. So everything started coming together. There was one really amazing day where, after we learned what the instruments were that we needed to get for each student, for each participant, we gathered up all the stuff. We piled it all up on the stage at E-Town Hall. We had the curtains drawn. We got all the participants to come and sit in the hall at E-Town Hall, opened up the curtains, and they all came up on stage and found where their name was, and they got their stuff. And a couple things happened. On the one hand, I thought, this is like some cheesy game show where they're just coming up on stage and tell them what they win, Don Pardo. You get a new keyboard. How about a new stand for your new guitar? It just seemed kind of cheesy, but it was also super sweet. It was pretty cool to just see, all they had to do was say yes, and we delivered on our first part of our commitment and gave them the instruments they dreamed of. Somebody wanted a violin or a clarinet or a guitar, an electric guitar, or a bass, or computers to do, beats and electronic music. We got all the residents paired with teachers who were gonna be their mentors and help them for a few months get better at their instruments. And then everything gets shut down.
All right.
Did that one get up? Let me hear that low one. It didn't sound like you got up to E. Yeah, that low one isn't high enough yet. So we all had to go through a training at Attention Homes in which the leadership over there helped us understand the kinds of experiences their residents have gone through. It was a moving, eye-opening experience for me, just to imagine the kind of uncertainty, trauma, fear, physical damage, that's sort of ingrained into these young people's, bodies, basically. We had to approach the whole thing with some tenderness and some understanding and some forgiveness, because the reality is they were not used to doing things like, hey, your lesson's at 3 o'clock on a Tuesday, we'll see you then. It's like, maybe I'll be there at 3, but maybe my friend and I went up to the hill and did something else, So there was some flakiness and some lack of responsibility. I did say to everybody, if you finish the program, you get to keep your instrument. If you don't finish the program, you got to give it back. So there was an incentive to participate and be reliable. But once the pandemic began and the opportunity to physically connect and teach went away, everything got a lot harder. Yeah, so here's one. So that's an E major scale, but I'm starting here. So, and I'm using all 4 fingers, but I'm not moving my hand very far.
The screen froze. Can you do that again?
Yeah.
Well, I was looking at no work, so I was well aware that I needed to start teaching online, and I actually had a couple of other students at the time that were heading into trying to navigate that. So I was all gung ho, and then as we got into it, I realized there are serious limitations, especially with sort of assessing a student's needs. You know, the support at E-Town was great. Nick Forster and I have been friends for many years. I knew Nick when he was repairing guitars at the Folklore Center in Denver. He needed a clarinet teacher, and I guess he decided I was the one to call, and so I was glad he did.
It's always fun to have a challenge where you come into students who don't necessarily have the same background as you. So I feel like I'm particularly adept at that as I've grown older, and I've come to love teaching as I've grown older. So I guess that's part of how I got here. The place where I had been teaching went online immediately. So right away, I had to learn about Zoom and all of that. And as much as I didn't love the idea of teaching group piano in a situation on Zoom with people that I didn't know, I figured, well, okay, new challenge here of the COVID-19. And at first, it was a bit difficult.
One of the biggest hurdles in the early going was just, I'd spend half my lesson just getting them tuned, getting their guitar tuned up. It's like, okay, now turn that one down a little bit. Okay, now turn it up a little bit, a little more, that's good. Okay, now let's go to the next string. And then by that time you'd come back and then he'd play a chord and it was, you know, whereas if we had been in person, I could have said, hey, just give me that for 60 seconds and I'll just tune your guitar and hand it back to you. Here's a tuner, here's how you use your tuner next time, you know, but that was a surprising challenge. But it was really cool to see that in almost every case, there was an appetite, there was a desire, and there was actually some aptitude.
I left it at home.
I left it at home.
Okay. 2, 3, 4. Oh, whoa, 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 oh, whoa, 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 whoa. Okay. Take your thumbs.
Growing up, I had other siblings who didn't want me to succeed, so they silenced my voice. Hence why my mid-range is not as strong as my baritone or my alto. My voice has always been silenced. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Good. I was always been a poet. I used to write poems for fun when I was just bored. Definitely, for sure, like when I was like 8 years old, I joined choir. I was always trying to get into music class. Can you love me for my insecurities? Can you love me when I'm breaking? You're my light through the darkness. You're the remedy for my pain. Music was the only way I can like really express myself, especially being the fourth born out of 6 kids. So, of course, having 3 sisters and 2 brothers, we were always competing for attention. So, music was my way of expressing how I felt. I got a DJ controller because I was like, I wanted to go like do hip hop, but also DJ at the same time, like make my own beats. I learned a little about what goes into song engineering, about how to use Ableton, about how to basically take a song and throw it together, you know. Hip hop has always been big in my house, so that was kind of like the vibe I was trying to go for, was something along those lines. You can express yourself, you can express your pain, and still have a good beat, you know.
Chose to call it, is that what I said?
Oh, yeah. Here we go.
Becca, can you love me when you see my demons? Can you love me through all the seasons? Would you hold me when my heart weakens? Without you, my love still deepens. I don't want to wake up, keep drinking poison from the poison cup. Your leaving makes me want to cut. Now all my demons are waking up. The third part of this was just me getting them to tell me their story. So, what kind of songs do you like? What kind of themes would you be attracted to in terms of songwriting? And then tell me your story. And that's where it got really interesting. Some of the stories were heartbreaking. As I was hearing all these stories, I tried not to be, overwhelmed or overcome or shocked. It was more just about, okay, what can I do to help turn these images and these memories into lyrics? I was really focused on helping them create a shape around their stories and be able to give them back what they gave me, but in verse form, in rhyming form.
Let's try it. Yeah. Kaylee's a great gal, and it was actually talk about when I first met her online. Of course, she hadn't played clarinet for years, and they'd just given her this student horn, and how she was going to write a song and record it. I was like, man, I don't know if this can happen. When I met her in person, this is when I realized that this is a person that had some drive and she had some talent, and that was something that could happen. So working with her is great. She was a little skeptical about writing a piece, and I said, so give me a line. And she played a line, and I said, great. Give me another line. And so we just kind of put it together one phrase at a time, and I helped her out with organizing, and I said, what about if we switch those two and we drop that one? And I did a little coaching, but she wrote the thing, and then I arranged it. We met with Nick. He said, so Kaylee, what kind of instruments would you like? And we hadn't really talked about it. She said, I love piano, and flute would be nice, and cello would be beautiful. And I happen to know a great cello and piano player, and I'm kind of a hack flute player, so I said, okay, let's do it.
So yeah, we started with a little chunk of chords or melody, and figured out instrumentation, got him in the studio, other musicians. In a few cases, I would write the melody and chord charts and teach it to the musicians, and then the participants would just come in and sing over the song that would already have been created. In some cases, it was more collaborative, and they would have a lot of opinions about how the song should go.
I'm a dreamer, I wanna get what's mine. I'm a believer, although it's hard to find. She's a keeper.
There was a lot of variety in terms of the inherent talent and even musical experience among these young people. Although they keep their distance, they kind of keep tabs on each other, and so there was a sense that, yes, some of these people are really good, and that worked against some of the beginners. Some of the beginners felt like, how am I even going to compete with that? This kid sounds great, sings great, plays great, writes a song, and I'm just figuring out how to go. Okay, where does my finger go so I can make a C chord? So there was that sense of self-doubt and/or self-loathing was always really close.
Mostly, I think the primary drive for my interest in music used to be a lot of video games. I still like and prefer a lot of video games and video game music to begin with. I just kind of was like, hell yeah, I'll do it, because, I don't know, it seemed like something fun to do and something to express more creativity that was outside of a medium that I'm more used to, because I'm more used to artwork.
Here we go.
It was a really cool process. With Nick, he had worked on a couple of chord progressions and came up with, I think, a really cool tune. And he had very specific ideas. He's also into Japanese anime, so that also contributed to some of his ideas about what he wanted to do with that.
I was very uncertain because I had never written a song before, and I had never written anything, you know, that was supposed to be like recorded song-wise, you know. As we got to like the recording part and realizing that, oh crap, I've got this like guitarist that I can make full use of, and my initial stance was kind of have it kind of be like a weird, just kind of nice piano song, but then it occurred to me I could turn it into something more rock-based.
It was really fun. It was really great, and I'm really so proud of him, because I think during that whole process, he learned that if you're going to produce something, if you're going to have a project, and you're going to have a product come out of that project, you need to show up. And that was the hardest part for me in dealing with some of these kids, is getting them to show up. I just feel like he got so excited about the project. He was showing up, he was answering emails, all those things that I think really showed him and me and probably the world and the overall that he is growing up and learning some skills, in spite of that he came from a very difficult situation in life.
So, what's the vibe of this whole thing for you? Has it been a good thing, or has it been like a distraction or a burden, or what's the deal?
I feel like it's been like kind of like a mission or something. It's like giving me something to like work towards or something, and like something to do in my free time, like where like a hobby of mine can actually maybe like do something with. It's given me a lot, honestly, and I can't be ever more grateful, honestly, especially for the guitar that y'all gave me.
Cool.
Because that's just like tightest.
Awesome, man. All right, well, let's listen to this thing.
I don't wanna do this anymore. I've been self-leaving without leaving any scars. What to do to pass the time when I'm bored? Sometimes it's hard to make a new start. Got a shorter fuse than most do. They get under my skin and prick me like a fish hook. Feeling lonely, depressed, and deprived. I don't wanna be me or alive. Like, why can't I just go out and die quick? Looking for some type of disguise, a mask that fits. At the same time, I'm tired of trying to hide from the darkness that swallows my mind. I need an outlet. Music been my muse as an outcast. I don't know what switched. Eyes off the target I missed. I wanna hear the basket swish and score. The fire in my belly, a phoenix roars. Hurt people, just hurt people, then we hurt people and repeat the cycle. We're not evil, we just question our self-worth. We don't break even, we're just doing what we learn. Figure life lessons, or is life testing us? Let us write a testament. Don't be bothered by the type of life that we choose to live. We just wanna be a random act of kindness and give ourselves gifts. Where we learn to love again. Can we learn to love again?
There was always in the back of my mind, once I'd gone through the training with attention homes, The idea that we could push too hard, that we could expect too much, that this could be a thing that was not joyful and maybe burdensome, maybe we were coming on too heavy, we would be just like some other grown-up, laying a trip on these young people saying, why aren't you doing it my way? And in some cases that happened. There was some attrition as we moved forward from a variety of causes. It created some frustration, but also a lot of empathy and a lot of deeper understanding of what it's like for these young people. It was hard for me not to get attached. So I became personally connected with a lot of these young people. We had to be careful, but I have to tell you, a lot of the students really did make progress, and it was palpable. You could see they're turned on, they're making things, they're getting into the software that they got, they're getting into the instruments they got.
Yeah, you get how you're comfortable and I'll set things up.
I think looking back on the whole program, the pandemic really made it harder. If it works really well, in my view, each one of these participants will have an instrument that they are proud of and that they're happy to own. They will have felt heard along the way, like they actually told their story to somebody who listened to them. They will be able to point to a thing they made. I want them to be able to say, you know what? I wrote this song, and here it is. I'm gonna play it for you, and I'm gonna sing it for you. And that they can have that sense of accomplishment from having done that. Who knows where this is gonna go? All I can tell you is we had to try.
1, 2, 3, 4. The Jesus shave sign, I slept under that so many cold nights on a cardboard mat. Got out of Denver to get away from all that. I got plenty of friends, they don't know where I'm at. Yeah, 2 years ago was the hardest winter. It's when my ex-girlfriend got kicked out of the shelter. When it's 10 below zero, everyone's a beginner just to get through the night. Feel like some kind of winter. It's a hard road and I'm on it. Yeah, it's a hard road and I'm on it.
Knowing that not many people have this opportunity, I think that was like the primary drive. Being able to take hold of that opportunity, I feel like is important.
I think it's about self-respect, accomplishment. I did that. Turning a big goal into small incremental goals and ticking them off. I'm tickled to be part of the project. I hope that it's as rewarding to all these young people as it seems like it could be.
It is a process. It is dedication and hard work. There's so much that goes behind it, and it makes me appreciate it even more. No matter how hard it gets, the rewards are going to be beneficial in the end.
I felt accomplished, actually. Like, I set out to do something and I actually learned an instrument. I just felt like if I just put my mind to it, I can do it, and I did it.
I hope they got a love of music in a new way, and that everything that they've learned, they can take out into the world and share with other people. Art, music, all of that, it takes us beyond ourselves, beyond our physical beings. It touches us emotionally, spiritually. I mean, life without music, like, why bother?
If this model works, and if 5, 10, 15, 20% of the participants had some kind of an experience that was eye-opening, cathartic, positive, life-changing, if that's the case, Those are pretty good numbers. I think it was a real tangible example of ways in which we can use our facility and our expertise on behalf of the less fortunate among us. Building community through music, which is what E-Town's tried to do ever since we started. You know, looking back, we'd probably try some things differently, but for the most part, you know, I feel really good about the results we've gotten.
Well, Captain Morgan's a jolly old soul. Found the suit in the dumpster by the telephone pole. I've been wearing that thing in the heat and the cold. It's the closest I've been to famous. My old friend seems so quiet and chill. A good-hearted dude, say what you will. I never thought he had the power to kill, but you can only poke the bear so often. You can only poke the bear so often.
came into the week thinking this was the pro-am model. We were going to be the pros and they were going to be the amateurs. And what really happened is we let go of that control, and that's something that we talk about a lot in maker education, is sort of a co-learning environment where students taught us a lot. They had a lot of ideas about how to make variations on what we had done before, and just charged fearlessly. They just dove right into it and have accomplished some pretty amazing things this week.
What an amazing ratio. I think it's 2 educators for every student, so it's like it doesn't get better than that. And what was the most important thing, I think, if I was going to summarize an experience like this is, yes, there are electronics and there's understanding how to breadboard, but there was a sense of confidence building, of giving young people agency of the direction of what they wanted to learn and where they wanted to explore. Learning of how a basic circuit worked with a light, then moving it to a sound, and then extending that by adding radio frequencies, which introduced them to building a Yagi antenna and how they were going to communicate with this object that went far beyond their reach, and then the imagination kind of takes over.
Space Camp was this amazing opportunity to reach a different group of students that maybe don't often see themselves as aerospace engineers or environmental designers. And I think that there's this notion of empowering teen engineers into a position where they are doing the work right now. And I think that's really powerful, that's really profound. I mean, we were thoroughly co-learning with this group of amazing students, and it felt very equitable in that regard. And I think that's a really different kind of learning environment for these students, for educators as well.
At Space Camp, we did so many things. We learned how to do antennas, we learned how to track and do our own devices, we learned about circuits. I had a lot of fun. I learned how to work in teams, and I learned a lot.
Besides all about coding and stuff like that, that every team is important, because if the team that was coding, if they don't do it, then we can't make the launch, and we also need to make sure that everything's good and ready.
This is not a traditional classroom. This is not going to be like reading notes off of a blackboard or a projector or even on a screen. It's how do we solve this real world problem going out into the real world. We give them, a little bit of guidance and some of the tools that they need, and then I mean, pun intended, they took off, so yeah.
I think a lot of the students were a lot more comfortable more quickly than we had anticipated. People were engaged and talking about things and asking questions much more quickly than other people had experienced in the past, and much more quickly than we had optimistically thought. So that was really fun to see. It's just really refreshing when you can get to the point where you can make something that everyone thinks is very difficult to be simple and elegant. It makes all of these difficult topics so much more approachable that students can think that they can just do anything, which is true.
One of my favorite parts is constructing, because I really liked seeing how that capsule actually is and the balloon launches. I think people would enjoy Space Camp because it gives you a lot of good opportunities, and I think in the future it would look really good.
I think it was great that there weren't a ton of kids, and so with the amount of adults, they could all work with us and teach us things that we didn't know before, of how the weather balloons work, and I learned a lot.
I think we really wanted to surprise people with what's possible. When we started really looking into the notion of putting together a high altitude balloon, so the notion of sharing that with kids to give them this kind of inspirational moment of, wow, this is the very beginnings of a space program, that really appealed to us.
But it was also just a really good excuse to bring a bunch of different things together, a bunch of different technologies and just a bunch of physical things like lift of helium and the weight of a payload and how those things interact and the burst altitude of the balloon. It was just a good excuse to do a huge range of things and bring it all into one project.
The underpinnings that a kid could take away from this could lead to so many amazing engineering or science or artistic opportunities for them. I really hope and I think that when you come away from this, you can look at any of those fields and think, this is all open to me. I can choose to do anything.
For a couple of reasons, we wanted to try 2 different kinds of flights. One was a controlled release flight where at a certain altitude, a mechanism would say, okay, release the balloon and drop on the parachute down from there. So we sent that up had it drop at 15,000 feet above sea level to make sure that it's a shorter flight time. It would give the students a time to have that retrieval experience. It went up, flew for about a half an hour, and all of the data we were getting back from it, GPS, and also APRS, which is a ham radio system that tracks location in real time, everything went dark. But we had a pretty good idea where it landed. We got eyes on the parachute, which was still above the water, and then the payload was retrieved from about 8 inches underneath the surface of the water. Fortunately, we also had a real-time radio television transmission being recorded from the launch site. So we did get to watch what that flight looked like. We launched a second balloon at that time, and the altitude reaches what's called 0 to unlimited. So the goal is make it as light as possible so the balloon's as small as possible so that it can expand longer and all the while reaching a higher and higher altitude. The student's balloon actually hit an altitude of 87,163 feet, which is pretty awesome. That's over 3 times the altitude of a cruising passenger jetliner.
But both of the cameras did not record, and there's probably some frequency issues with the radio transponder that was on the unit that was activating or turning off the camera. So we did this last minute, okay, I think we can do this, and we did a last minute launch with the staff here, and this was the most glorious footage. And it wasn't that it went to the highest altitude, it was really the unique terrain of Boulder. For the students, we really want to, again, give them agency. We want them to own the entire experience. And as good citizens, when you send something aloft, there's airplanes flying around, what have you. So we want to make sure that the students understand that we can't just willy-nilly put something up there. They learn a little bit about the Federal Aviation Administration and their role. So we had the students at the beginning of the week do meteorological predictions, whether it's going to be a sunny day or rainy day, where the wind was going to go. Now any pilot, as the students could hopefully be able to share with you, would know where our balloon was in relation to that and when and what time, and our general direction.
Balloon launches have been done. People do them, and they do them all the time. But what we wanted to do was this end-to-end learning experience, that was teachers and students learning together, and we wanted to create a packet of information that lived beyond our space campus, and people hear the story and go, God, I want to do that. And you go, well, here's the packet of information, go do it and tell us your story. And that was really, I think that kind of reciprocal idea is at the heart of it.
What we really wanted to do this week was give some young people that might not normally have this kind of opportunity the chance to do something extraordinary and actually get their senses and their hearts and their minds engaged in real citizen science. This is not about being in the classroom, and the making of things doesn't have to happen on a desktop. We can actually create things that go out in the world and do things now. The goal is, let's let as many people as possible try to shoot for the moon themselves and learn from our mistakes and contribute back to the community that is also shooting for the moon.
Welcome to our little village of Tevlik. This could be a village anywhere at any time. Like most communities, we get along and help each other when someone is in need. We are hoping it rains soon. Our pantries are running low. A homeless family wanders into our village. Normally, we would welcome them with open arms, but the rains did not bring much to our soil, so there's not enough food for our own village, let alone outsiders. We gently urge them to continue their journey and find a home elsewhere. Even as we urge them along, it doesn't feel quite right. Our wise village leader has a plan to heal the village as well as the outsiders. At first, we don't see how a stone in a pot of water can do anything. But she knows exactly what will happen. She knows us better than we know ourselves. We discover that when we help others, we also help ourselves. We are wings of the same bird. We all need to be healthy to fly. Open your hearts and doors to beautiful possibilities.
Cactus, welcome back. I'm Christy here at Tinker Art Studio. We are going to do a cactus drawing in today's workshop. The materials that we'll need are a piece of white paper, washable markers, so the washable part is important. This is Crayola brand. You might have a different brand, but as long as they're washable, they will work well. A brush and a little bucket or cup of water. All right, let's get started. We are going to be using a very fun technique to create a cactus-inspired piece of artwork today. Cactuses come in all kinds of different shapes and sizes. Let's take a look at some cactuses to get some inspiration for the shapes that we'll be using in our drawing today. Cactuses are succulents, which is a type of plant that has spongy roots and stems. This is so that they can hold onto water they get and save it for later. A cactus doesn't have leaves, but instead it has spines or thorns. Some cactuses are very small and some are very big. There are about 2,000 different types of cactuses found in the world. They like to live in hot, dry climates like deserts, and some can even live for up to 200 years. The saguaro cactus is the largest cactus in the United States. The tallest one ever found was over 78 feet tall. That would be as tall as a 7-story building. Cactus flowers come in many different colors, from yellow and red to pink, white, orange, and even blue. Their flowers can be as small as a dime or as large as a dinner plate. Now that we've learned a little about cactuses, let's jump into drawing our own. I like to start by collecting all my cool colors of markers, so any shade of blue, purple, or green. And then I'm going to start laying my cactus shapes down on my paper. So you might like to choose any shape you feel inspired by. And I'm going to start with that cactus shape that kind of builds like this as my central cactus in the middle of my paper. This is a prickly pear cactus. Then I'm going to choose another color, like maybe this light green, and draw another style of cactus. Maybe that saguaro cactus that kind of has the arm that comes up. Now notice that I'm allowing this one to look like it's behind the first one that I drew. In order to do that, I skip the line that looks like it would be behind the first cactus. Now I'm going to draw one more cactus in a new color. I'm going to try this teal color. I think I'm going to do just a tall one. Oh, I'm going to skip that spot to make it look like it's behind and come back down on this side. Now I have 3 different cactus shapes in 3 different cool colors. These shapes are very flat and 2-dimensional. In order to give my shapes some form, I'm going to draw some lines, some contour lines through the middle of my cactus. So I'm going to start with the same color that I used for the outline of the cactus. And I might draw some long lines, some shorter ones, some dashed lines. I'm even angling my marker a little bit to get a little bit of a thicker line going on in some places. Because this cactus is a tall, straight cactus, my lines were very straight. When I move on to the cactus in the middle, I want my lines to appear a little more curved to help show that this cactus is a little rounder and curved. So I like to start by drawing a straight line down the middle and then curved lines on each side. Now for the final cactus. I'm going to draw some of those straight lines, and then when I get over here to the bend in the arm, I might curve my lines a little bit to follow that bend. I'm using the side of this marker to make thicker lines. And then maybe my line curves. The curve is actually kind of hidden by this cactus, so I don't end up having too many curves there. Now, artists, I'm going to come back in with a different color. Maybe you want to pick up some blue and add a little blue in here with this turquoise. And I'm just filling in my space with those lines, these contour lines, in the middle of my cactus. I'm going to choose one other color for each cactus. I think over here I might do the dark green, and then over here maybe the light green. I'm not filling in the whole space. We're going to get to that when we move on to our water with our brush. And lastly, I'm going to add some flowers. This is when I might pick some of those other colors. Remember that flowers on cactuses come in all different colors and sizes. To add a flower, I'm going to make a little dot on one of my cactuses, wherever I want the flower to be, and then go out from that dot and back in, and do that a few times. I think this cactus might have 2 pink flowers. And then over here, I made out a maybe a red flower. And an orange one over here. Okay, now that I have this cactus drawing, I'm going to put my markers away and get my water and brush. Because these are washable markers, I can use my brush in water and blend the colors together. So I'm going to follow those same lines, the direction that I was drawing them with my brush. Sometimes it takes a moment for the water to blend these colors. I might re-dip and get more water when my brush starts feeling dry. And then I just kind of trace right over the lines in the same direction. And you can see how the colors start really blending together. Give this a moment to be able to really see the effect. As the water starts to dry, it will become a little more clear. And this turns my markers into more of a watercolor paint. I'll do the same thing with the flowers. Just blend that marker right on the paper. Now I'm gonna let my cactuses dry a little bit before I go back in and add those spikes or thorns. All right, to add thorns, I'm going to use a black marker, and there's so many different ways you could add spikes or thorns to your cactuses. One way is to draw an X and then another line through the top and through the side. It kind of looks like a star. I might do this style of thorn in rows on one cactus and a different style of thorn on another cactus. Another style of thorn that's fun to do is little kind of upside down or sideways V shapes. I like the way that one looks too. Maybe some come off the side, like that. And another style of thorn might just be little dashed lines all over the place. Some in rows, or maybe just kind of all over your cactus. It is totally up to you. You are the artist, you get to decide. I'm gonna keep working on the thorns on my cactus, building them out for each one. Great work, artists. I hope you enjoyed this technique, and you might like to try it out in different types of artwork that you create. Using water to blend the marker colors together is a really fun technique for lots of different styles of art. All right, I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
My name is Jaco Perlov, and I composed this piece. It's my first prelude in E minor, and I composed it while I was sitting down. The inspiration for this piece was Beethoven's 27th Piano Sonata in E minor. Has similar timing and similar rhythm, and I wound up involving this piece, so I hope you enjoy.
Hello, my name is Sven Vesmar. The name of my composition is From Far Lands. It is about traveling adventures. I learn about Scamper and to always do the dynamics last or at the end. I hope the audience gets that this is about adventures of travel. Enjoy.
My name is Emily Ann Bowman. I am the Artistic Director of the Greater Boulder Youth Orchestras and the conductor of the Philharmonic. It has been a highlight, an absolute highlight of my week to get together on Monday afternoons with the young musicians of the Philharmonic. We've been meeting safely in 2 separate groups, making music at a distance, and the recording you will hear is a celebration in sound of the first time the 2 groups got together. And they are performing works of Johann Sebastian Bach and Joseph Bologna. Black Lives Matter. Black composers matter. Joseph de Bologna, born on December 25th in 1745, of an enslaved mother and a wealthy planter on the Caribbean island of Guadeloupe, overcame the odds against him to become one of the leading musicians of his time. When Joseph was 8 years old, his father took him and his mother to Paris for greater opportunities to become a member of free society. Bologna excelled as an athlete, as a fencer, and as a musician. It was a time when individuals of African descent faced racism in Europe, which Bologna reportedly faced on occasion, but it is also reported that he was able to transcend these prejudices through his talents as a fencer, as a dancer, and as a musician, winning over audiences and important members of high society. He was admired by François Gasset and Karl Stamitz, who each dedicated compositions to him. The Paris symphonies of Joseph Haydn were commissioned and premiered by Bologna. Marie Antoinette was often among the audience of his concerts. U.S. President John Adams wrote in his journal on a visit to Paris that Joseph Bologna was, quote, one of the most accomplished gentlemen of Europe, end quote. Bologna's career led him to write music that pushed the known limits for the violin and for the orchestra. Bologna was in a prominent position as a musician and fencer where he could push other limits as well. He was part of a reform movement in France and abroad that advocated for equality, democracy, and anti-slavery legislation. This movement transformed in time into the French Revolution. Joseph Bologna, also known as the Chevalier de Saint-Georges, served as a colonel of the Légion Saint-Georges, the first all-black regiment in Europe, fighting on the side of the Republic. The Philharmonic is performing a work by Joseph Bologna, or Chevalier de Saint-Georges, from the string quartet in C minor. This is a rondo movement, and you will hear this rondo theme again and again. It's quite dramatic. Some of the students describe the theme as mysterious, or like Halloween, or intense. There's quite a lot of mood changes. You'll also notice those in between the rondo themes return. This has been a really fun adventure, learning about Joseph Bologna and getting to know the members of the Philharmonic Orchestra. I hope you enjoy this performance. Johann Sebastian Bach was a German composer and musician of the Baroque period, born on March 21st, 1685. Johann Sebastian Bach has been revered through the ages for his work's musical complexity and stylistic innovations. He is considered one of the greatest Western composers in history. This is manuscript from Orchestral Suite number 3. These are the gavottes that the Philharmonic is performing. This was likely written for a party in the summer in Leipzig at Zimmermann's Coffee House, which was a very happening place at the time. At this time in Europe, music was often performed in the court and in the church. It was before the time of the public concert hall. This was a kind of unique opportunity to hear music in a less formal setting. The orchestra suites are written with a much lighter spirit than the majority of Johann Sebastian Bach's works, which are more serious and sacred. We hope you enjoy these dance movements.
Thank you.